She showed up with a realtor. Uninvited. Smiling. Like she owned the place. My wife froze. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I knew what was coming. They thought they could take everything. The house. Our peace. Even our names. Then came the letter. Not from them. From someone else. And that's when everything changed. You ever have one of those family get-togethers where you just know it's gonna end in chaos, but you show up anyway because your mom pulls the guilt card? That was me last summer. Name's Mark. I'm 37. Married to Emily. The kindest, most level-headed woman I've ever known. No kids, by choice. We've built a life full of calm. Intentional quiet. Coffee on the deck. Road trips without diaper bags. Long Sunday mornings with jazz and pancakes. It's not flashy. It's ours. And just a few months before this mess began, we bought a vacation home. A small, serene cabin in the Catskills. We'd saved for years. It had a porch swing, a lake view, and most importantly, no cell reception. Heaven. We told almost no one. Except my parents. That was our first mistake. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my folks. But my sisters, Brittany and Ashley, they've always been something else. Loud, competitive, entitled. Each with a couple of kids and a sense that the world owes them a monthly applause for surviving motherhood. Emily and I live in a different rhythm. No kids. Steady jobs. Financially responsible. We're not better, we're just not bitter. But my sisters? Oh, they see our lifestyle as some sort of insult. Like the fact that we enjoy peace means we're selfish. That's the lens they look through. If you don't struggle like they do, you must be doing something wrong. Anyway, my mom invited us to this family barbecue. I tried to decline. Emily was fine skipping it. But then Mom called Emily directly. Pulled the whole. It would mean so much to your father routine. So we went. It was chaos from the moment we pulled into the driveway. Kids running wild. 2 of them nearly took out the grill, chasing each other with sparklers. Brittany and Ashley were sunburned by 2 p.m. Red Solo cups in hand. Already loud and loose with the wine coolers. We made our rounds. Said hello. Dodged a beach ball. Grabbed a drink. Tried to blend into the background. But then Brittany sauntered over and flopped into the chair next to me. No hello. No, how've you been? Just. So. When can we start renting out the cabin? I blinked. I'm sorry. Ashley plopped down on my other side. Your vacation home. We've got friends who'd love a weekend in the mountains. We could list it on Airbnb, handle bookings, split profits with you. It's a no-brainer. I hadn't spoken to either of them in months. This was their opener. I sipped my drink. It's not for rent. It's our private getaway. Brittany gave me this tight-lipped smile, the kind she used to flash before tattling to our parents. Oh, I see. So you two just get to hoard the nice things, and no one else gets to enjoy them. Ashley crossed her arms. Wow. Selfish much. I stood up. You're not entitled to our stuff just because we're related. They both rolled their eyes. Brittany muttered something about family. Ashley scoffed. And I walked away before I said something I couldn't take back. Emily, sweet angel that she is, had been watching the whole thing. She took my hand and whispered, "Let's get some air." We left early. The vibe had shifted. A neighbor's phone had nearly taken a swim thanks to one of the kids pushing too hard near the pool. And I was pretty sure someone had stolen my sunglasses. But the real storm came the next day. My mom called. "Honey," she said, voice coated in diplomacy. "Brittany told me you promised the family could use the cabin anytime. She said you were just having second thoughts." I nearly choked. "That's not true. We never said that." "Well," she sighed. "Maybe just let them use it a few weekends a year. It's not a big deal, right?" It was in that moment I realized. This wasn't about the cabin. It was about control. Always had been. I took a deep breath. "Mom. No one is using that cabin unless Emily and I invite them. End of story." Silence. Then, they're not going to take this well." She was right. You ever feel like you've stepped into a scene you weren't supposed to see? Like walking into your own living room and finding strangers rearranging your furniture? That was me 3 days after the barbecue. Emily and I had just gotten home from a quiet weekend hike. Shoes still dusty, grocery bags in hand, talking about dinner. We pulled into our driveway, and there it was. A truck. Not just any truck. Brittany's husband's. Parked right in front of our house like it belonged there. The tailgate was down, and leaning against it was one of those sandwich board signs you'd see outside a real estate office. But it had been slapped over with a magnet that read, "Dreamy weekend getaway? Booking now." I stood there, blinking. Emily said, "What the hell is that?" Before I could respond, I spotted him, Brittany's husband, walking around the side of our house with a clipboard, looking at our trees, our garden, taking notes. He waved like this was completely normal. "Hey man, just grabbing a few shots for the brochure." Brittany said you guys were cool with it. I could feel Emily's hand tighten on mine. "We're not," I said. He laughed, shrugged, and said something about testing the waters. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The look on my face said enough. He packed up pretty quickly after that. But the damage was done. Not to the house, thankfully, but to the trust, what little there was left. I didn't call anyone. I didn't yell. I just sat on the porch swing that night, watching the lake reflect the moon, wondering how the hell we got here. And then I remembered. This was exactly why we put the cabin under an LLC. When Emily and I bought the place, our accountant had suggested it for taxes, for privacy, for liability. We named it Quiet Pines Holdings. Sounded peaceful, right? And it meant that, technically, neither of our names were on any public-facing documents about the property. At the time, it just seemed smart. Now, it felt like divine foresight, because here's what Brittany and Ashley didn't know. They could try to pressure, manipulate, or guilt me all they wanted. But legally, they didn't even know who owned the place. They couldn't touch it. Not without digging deeper than they knew how. And I intended to keep it that way. But they weren't done. The next evening, just as Emily and I were settling in, glass of wine, feet up, halfway through a rerun of The Office, we got a knock on the door. I paused the TV. Emily looked at me. Neither of us moved. Then another knock, followed by laughter. I opened the door slowly, half hoping it was a neighbor. Nope. Brittany, Ashley, their husbands. And surprise, a real estate agent. Brittany beamed like she was on a game show. "Mark, we were just in the neighborhood and thought, hey, why not pop by?" Ashley held her baby on one hip with 2 kids fidgeting behind her. Her husband gave me a nod like we were about to discuss business over cigars. The realtor, poor guy, had that wide-eyed look of someone who realized too late he'd been invited to a family ambush. I didn't invite them in. Emily stepped beside me. The silent, united front. Ashley jumped in. "We just wanted to have a civil conversation. You're not seriously going to keep that place all to yourself, are you?" The realtor tried to smooth it over. "I've heard this property has amazing potential for short-term rentals. Views, privacy, it's the kind of listing that books itself." I turned to Brittany. "You brought a realtor to my house. Without calling. Without asking." She blinked. "We just thought it'd be easier to talk in person. Face to face. No miscommunications." Ashley nodded. "It's time we all got on the same page." There was a moment of silence. One of those long, taut ones where the air seems to hum. And then Emily, sweet, gentle Emily, stepped forward. "I think the page we're on," she said, voice cool and calm, "is the one where we say no for the last time." Brittany opened her mouth, but Emily kept going. "This isn't about family. It's about boundaries. And you keep ignoring ours." Ashley laughed. "Boundaries? Please, we're your sisters. You're supposed to share things." I smiled, really smiled, and said, "We are sharing. We're sharing our decision. And you're welcome to leave now." There was another pause. The kind that feels like someone's about to either throw a punch or burst into tears. But instead, Brittany just scoffed, turned to the realtor and said, "Well, I guess that's it then. Sorry for wasting your time." To his credit, the realtor looked mortified. He mumbled an apology and practically jogged back to his car. The others followed. Not another word. Emily and I stood there for a long moment after the door closed. Neither of us spoke. Then she said, "I'm making brownies. You want one?" I nodded. "Make it too." Some people argue with you to your face. Others prefer to operate in whispers, in guilt trips, and in shadowy little side maneuvers that leave you feeling like you've stepped into a soap opera. That was Brittany and Ashley. After the whole real estate ambush at our front door, I figured maybe, just maybe, they'd finally get the hint. They didn't. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts. Brittany had sent me what can only be described as a guilt manifesto. Paragraphs upon paragraphs about how I'd changed, how family doesn't turn its back on each other, and how I was robbing the kids of beautiful summer memories. Ashley followed with one that began, "Wow, I'm honestly stunned at how cold you've become." I ignored the message. I figured if I stayed quiet, they'd eventually cool off. Let the drama simmer down. Emily, on the other hand, wasn't as lucky. Later that week, she got a call from her boss. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual but clearly uncomfortable. "We got an anonymous message sent to HR, accusing you of using school resources for personal gain. Something about vacation rentals?" Emily stood in our kitchen, phone in hand, face pale with disbelief. "Are you serious?" The accusation was laughable. Emily's a curriculum director, and if anything, she brings her own supplies to school. Extra crayons, snacks, even books on her own dime. Her boss assured her that HR reviewed it, knew it was nonsense, and dismissed it right away. But the message, it had specific details. Details only someone close to us would know. Someone family. That night, as Emily poured herself a rare second glass of wine, she looked at me and said, "They're not just trying to get access to the cabin. They're trying to mess with my life." I nodded. "It's not about the house anymore. It's about control." Like always, we sat in silence for a bit. Then Emily, who rarely curses, muttered, "Screw him," which, for her, is basically a declaration of war. That's when I remembered something. Back when we bought the cabin, Emily had wanted to keep it totally under the radar. No Instagram posts, no group texts, no cozy pictures of sunsets on the porch swing. Just our little hideaway, a place that existed outside the noise. And now, it was like the noise had found us anyway, so we decided to pull back even further. We changed the cabin's access code. We stopped sharing location info with family. We even moved a few of our belongings, things that mattered to us, into storage in case anyone got too curious. Felt a little paranoid, but necessary. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email. Not from my sisters. Not from my mom. From an old high school buddy, Travis. We hadn't talked in years, but we were still connected on social media. Subject line, "Dude, are you renting out your cabin?" The body of the email was a screenshot. Apparently, someone had started posting in a local Facebook group, Hudson Valley Getaways and Retreats, offering a hidden gem cabin in the Catskills with photos that looked an awful lot like ours. Except the listing was vague. No address, just scenic shots, bullet points, and a contact email that ended in a suspiciously familiar format. One I'd seen before, in Brittany's old Etsy shop. I couldn't prove anything. And honestly, I didn't want to. I just wanted to be left alone. So I did the only thing I knew how to do when my family gets like this. I started cutting them off. Not in some big, dramatic announcement. Just quietly. No responses to texts. No updates. No interactions. I even muted the family group chat, the one my mom used to post blurry photos of casseroles and funny chain memes. Emily did the same. And here's the thing, at first no one seemed to notice. But silence is louder than people think. After a week of nothing, Brittany left me a voicemail. "Hey, I know things got a little tense, but let's not drag this out. Okay? We're family. Let's move on." Translation: I'm not apologizing, but I'm also not done trying. I deleted it. Then Ashley sent a message to Emily. "If you're going to ice us out, at least have the decency to say why." Emily showed me the text, rolled her eyes and said, "Like they don't know." Another week passed. Then two. And that's when the letter arrived. You ever notice how, in families, silence is rarely neutral? Sometimes it's peaceful. Other times, it's loaded with meaning, with expectation, with pressure. That's what the days felt like after we stopped responding. Not like a break, like a staring contest. Emily and I kept to ourselves, spent long weekends at the cabin, cooked together more, played old vinyl records on the deck. It was finally what we wanted, just us and quiet. But we both knew it wouldn't last. Then, one afternoon, as I was heading home from the grocery store, I pulled into our driveway and stopped cold. There they were. Brittany's minivan, Ashley's SUV, both parked out front. I didn't even get out of the car. Emily came out onto the porch with that look. The one that says, "You're not going to like this. They've been here 10 minutes, she said. Didn't ring the bell. Just waiting. I sighed. Like cats at a door. We approached slowly. Both sisters stood as we neared, all tight smiles and awkward energy. Ashley opened her arms like we were about to pose for a holiday card. We just wanted to talk. About what? I asked, already knowing. Brittany stepped in. Look, maybe things got a little out of hand. But we all said things. You're not exactly blameless, Mark. Emily's eyebrow twitched. She stayed quiet. We want to make it right, Ashley added. Do you? I asked. Or do you just want back in? That shut them up for a beat. Then Brittany said it. We missed the way things used to be. The holidays. The group trips. The family feel. You mean when you got to take without asking? Emily said gently. Ashley shook her head, irritated. No, when you didn't act like you were better than us. That stung. Not because it was true, but because it was the heart of everything. They'd always seen our choices as judgment, our peace as arrogance, our boundaries as rejection. And now that they couldn't get what they wanted, they weren't just upset. They were offended. I took a deep breath. Look, you're our sisters. That hasn't changed. But we're not going back to pretending. This cabin, our space, our time, that belongs to us. Brittany scoffed. You know what? Forget it. Keep your stupid cabin. Ashley turned to leave, muttering something under her breath I didn't catch. They didn't even say goodbye. They just got into their cars, slammed the doors, and drove off. I stood there on the porch, watching the dust settle. Emily slid her hand into mine. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm not, I said. And I wasn't. That night, we opened a bottle of wine, grilled some salmon, and sat under the stars with a little music playing from our tiny Bluetooth speaker. It felt good. Final. Not bitter, just done. But the next morning, as we sipped coffee and planned a cabin weekend, a small, plain envelope arrived in the mailbox. No return address. Just our names in cursive handwriting I didn't recognize at first. Inside? A short letter. It was from my Aunt Helen, my mom's estranged younger sister. We hadn't heard from her in years. She had moved to Vermont ages ago and pretty much vanished from the family radar. The letter was kind. Unexpected. She wrote that she'd heard somehow about all the noise and just wanted to say she was proud of us. That standing up for your own peace wasn't selfish. It was sacred. Her words. She ended it with, protect what you've built? That kind of love is rare. There was a little photo tucked inside, too. A grainy snapshot of her standing in front of a tiny cabin somewhere in the woods decades ago. Smiling. Holding a mug. Looking like the exact version of peace we were chasing. Emily wiped a tear. Guess we're not the only ones who chose quiet. I nodded. Guess not. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something deeper than relief. I felt understood. After Aunt Helen's letter, something shifted. Not in our family, no. Brittany and Ashley went back to their corners, licking their wounds, plotting new entitlement strategies we thankfully didn't have to hear about. But inside us, there was a shift. A loosening. Like the pressure to fix things, to be the good son, the patient brother, the forgiver finally cracked and fell off our shoulders like old armor. We didn't respond to the letter. Not right away. We just tucked it into the drawer where we keep other meaningful things. Love notes, birthday cards, an old dog tag from a rescue mutt we once fostered and fell in love with for a week before he was adopted. It lived there now among the reminders of things that mattered. That fall, we spent every other weekend at the cabin. We put up string lights. Bought a canoe. Hosted a few close friends for a quiet dinner with wine and board games. No Airbnb. No brochures. No family ambushes. Just laughter echoing through pine trees and the sound of loons calling across the lake at night. One chilly November morning, as Emily and I were cleaning out the cabin pantry, she paused, held up a dusty old mason jar tucked way in the back. What's this? She asked. I shrugged. Probably leftover from the last owners. We popped the lid. Inside, a folded piece of paper. yellowed with age. On it, a note in blocky handwriting. To whoever finds this cabin saved my marriage. Saved me. If you're here, may it bring you the peace it brought us. No name. No date. Just that. Emily looked at me, eyes glassy. Looks like we're not the first. We left the note right where we found it, sealed it back into the jar and slid it into the shelf behind the pancake mix. Not to hide it. Just to let it wait for whoever needed it next. Weeks passed. The holidays came. We declined every invitation. Sent a polite text. Spent Christmas in flannel pajamas eating cinnamon rolls and watching snowfall through the cabin window. And then the real surprise came. In early January, I got a letter in the mail. This one was from someone I recognized. Uncle Henry. Now, Uncle Henry was always the odd one out. My dad's older brother. A gentle, quiet man who never married, never had kids, and lived in a crooked little house in Massachusetts where he collected antique weather vanes and brewed his own cider. We hadn't seen him in years. But the letter? It wasn't long. Just a short note saying he was moving into assisted living, finally ready to let go of the old house. Said he'd been following the family newsletter, his words, not mine, and had heard about the drama. Then he wrote this. You've done what most people can't, Mark. You've drawn the line. And you did it without losing your soul. I respect that more than you know. I smiled. But the last sentence caught me off guard. The weather vanes are yours if you want them. I think they'd look beautiful on the cabin. I laughed out loud. Emily, reading over my shoulder, grinned. Well, that's unexpected. So that spring I drove up to Massachusetts in our truck. Uncle Henry's place was just as strange and wonderful as I remembered. He hugged me tightly, gave me a box full of small bronze birds and arrows and said, you'll know where they go. I did. We mounted one above the cabin door. A copper rooster, tail curled from age. And every time the wind blew, it turned. Like it was saying, you're headed the right way. We haven't heard from Brittany or Ashley since. And that's okay. Some things you don't need to fix. You just need to stop carrying. Emily and I still sit on that porch swing every Sunday morning. Still sip our coffee. Still listen to the loons. But now there's a little weather vane turning in the breeze above us. And sometimes when the wind shifts, I swear I can hear Aunt Helen's voice, or that unknown mason jar couple, or even old Uncle Henry whispering the same thing. Protect what you've built? That kind of love is rare. And we do. Every day.